So the NBA regular season is coming to an end soon, which means we're kind of in this weird lull period of like we're kind of just waiting for the playoffs. And if we're not going to be a playoff team or even a play-in team for a lot of us NBA fans, we're like, okay, what do we do with the rest of this season? And me being the big NBA fan I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm also ready for the playoffs, but also being a fan of a team, aka the Chicago Bulls, that haven't been as good this year, I'm starting to look back at the season with some regret. I've been thinking about what moves should have been made, what moves should we make going forward. And so I kind of want to put that in a video because there's a couple articles that I found that I figure kind of cover those topics. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some trade deadline regrets that some teams probably should be having, or at least their fans are having. And then we're going to look ahead to say which players need to be moved. Specifically, young players that just need a change of scenery. Maybe the start of their NBA career hasn't quite worked out for them, but maybe given a change of scenery, like there's still hope for them to find their footing. Yeah, let's start off with the biggest regrets from the NBA trade deadline. They've, of course, got my Chicago Bulls up there, which, if you guys have been watching the channel for any amount of time, I think I did a whole video at the trade deadline just being like, I'm just so mad at the Chicago Bulls at this point and how they run things. I can't, with any, rationality, grip why they didn't make any moves, but I'm sure we'll get into it. All right, the first topic, and I'm really glad that we're talking about this one, is the Raptors parting ways with this first-round pick. They're talking about the trade that they made with the Utah Jazz, where they brought in Kelly Olynyk and Agbaji. This was a move that during the trade deadline when I covered it, I criticized it pretty heavily because I was like, I don't understand what's going on with it. And almost every Raptors fan in my comments kind of came back, were like, no, I actually really like this move. I think this makes a lot of sense. And like I said, obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion and everything, but I was like, I don't understand this move, and I feel like Raptors fans are starting to turn the page on it a little bit and be like, okay, maybe that was a little odd. So the first thing I see all Raptors fans talk about when it comes to this trade is like, okay, we brought in Kelly Olynyk. He's a floor spacing center that we can put next to Scotty Barnes. We want to see how that works if we can give Scotty Barnes more room to operate, because a lot of this rebuild in Toronto revolves around Scotty, right? Like, he's the best player on the team. He's an all-star, level player. How can we continue to help him improve? So they said, okay, let's throw Olynyk on the team. Floor spacing big, makes a lot of sense, gives him more room to operate. But was it worth giving up the first round pick? And then people were like, okay, AVC, we're going to justify it by saying Ochai Agbaji, he's better than anybody we were going to get with the 27th pick or whatever that pick's going to turn out to be. And my response was, I mean, maybe. Agbaji really hasn't found a great role in the NBA yet. I don't really know exactly what he's good at. And me being the guy I am, I'd rather just have my pick with someone at 27 and just find someone that I think I can develop. And maybe that's just the narcissistic coach and developer in me, but I see that as more valuable. And then the bigger question becomes what is Toronto trying to do right now? I understand you want to always try to remain competitive and everything, but you don't have a ton of talent on this team. You have a lot of weird talent on the team. Jakob Poeltl, interesting player. RJ Barrett, interesting player. Quickly, interesting player, right? You've got guys like Bruce Brown. What do you do with him? So is this a team that's trying to get better? Are they trying to tank? Because they're not good now. How are they gonna get better with the current assets that they have? And I don't know. This trade just didn't make sense to me. It doesn't indicate a direction. Kelly Olynyk's going to be 33 soon. Agbaji doesn't look like he's going to be on the team even much longer. So I don't know. The trade is weird to me. I feel like they should have just kept the pick and maybe turned it into something else. I don't know. All right, next one. The Wizards holding on to Tyus Jones. Yeah, so the Wizards season's just been a disaster. They're in complete disarray. I can actually tell you with confidence because I know people on this team and staff members that they're this is the worst organization to play for in the NBA. It's just so chaotic here. I'm not surprised the Washington Wizards never develop any talent. I don't know how they're supposed to on this team. But yeah, kind of the same mentality. The Wizards, they basically had two people that were worth anything at the deadline this year. It was Daniel Gafford and it was Tyus Jones. Daniel Gafford got moved. They got their pick for him. That's awesome. The Wizards don't have a lot of draft capital and they're the worst team in the NBA. So it's okay, we need to find a way to turn these guys into assets. Now Tyus Jones still on your team, and that's great because Tyus Jones is a nice basketball player. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent now. Most likely he's not coming back to your team because he doesn't want to play in this nonsense. Maybe he does, and maybe they just throw a bag at him, which probably would be an overpay considering his play this year. It's been a little bit down, but again, he's playing for the Wizards. Who's supposed to play well during this? But I just feel like you're going to lose him for nothing now, and you could have gotten something for him at the deadline. There's some contending team that would have liked to have had Tyus Jones on this team, or even just like, I'm sure like the Spurs would have given up something to have him and Trey on the team so that you have a little more competent point guard play around Wemby. But anyway, it's a whole thing. The Wizards don't know what they're doing at any point, and hopefully they're going to turn a corner in the future. But for the time being, assets are not very high. You moved Beal for basically nothing, and you don't have really much to look forward to. You've got Koulibaly, which is an interesting player. Like, Avdia's had really good moments this year, and that's cool, I guess. And Jordan Poole's playing better, but I don't know, man. If you're the Wizards, it's still not looking pretty. Next, the Pacers losing some offensive zip in the Buddy Hield trade. Yeah, no, this was another one that when I covered it, I was like, this trade makes me sad. And it's because Buddy Hield fits so well in the Pacers, and I think people are seeing now what I was saying about how important he is to this team, especially their offense. Like, the fact that Tyrese Halliburton has this guy that's just always ready to catch and fire at all times, one, gave him so much space to operate, but kept their offense, like, moving at all times. Just having that guy that's going to get those shots up, it's so important. And Buddy Hield, as we all know, one of the best shooters in the NBA. So the idea was that Buddy Hield had made it kind of clear that he's like, yeah, I'd prefer a trade. I'm letting you guys know this because I'm probably going to walk in free agency. I get that. I really do. But what did they get back at the end of the day? Like Doug McDermott? Yeah, they brought back Doug McDermott, who, again, Doug McDermott's a good shooter. He doesn't do it at nearly the volume that Buddy Hield does, and not many people do, and that's the point. I feel like I would have rather just kept building upon what we were doing in Indiana and tried to convince him to stay. I don't know. That feels like it would have been more beneficial, and I think we're seeing it now with Indiana that their offense maybe isn't quite as potent without him here. I really think he was that important of a piece on this team, and I'd be regretting it if I was an Indiana fan. And here we go, the Bulls snoozing through the deadline again. All right, so rant incoming. Where are the Bulls going? What are they doing? Like, why not trade these dudes? Like, why not trade Caruso, DeRozan, hell, Dosunmu, Pat Will? I don't think anybody wanted Vucevic. Levine was a hard one to trade because of his contract, but like, why not just move him? They're like, well, we want to try and stay competitive. We want to stay committed to this core. I get the front office doesn't want to admit that it didn't go well, but I don't think anybody would blame them either. Like, so much of it went down when Lonzo Ball went down, and he was such a connecting piece to this team, and the defense and the shooting and the passing that he brought. Like, I feel like we can all just chalk this up to like, hey, dudes got hurt. I still don't think the Vucevic, like DeRozan, like core around Levine was like a great answer, but I thought they had some good things going. It's just like, why not do anything? Because they're like, oh, we want to keep the culture together and everything. All these guys are just going to leave. Like, maybe DeRozan will be around next year because they'll just throw the bag at him. But like, what is that accomplishing? Like, we might not even make the play-in. So what, you're just here to pay DeMar DeRozan? Like, is that really how we're going to fill seats? And like, that's the unfortunate thing is Bulls fans will just go watch these games. They're very loyal fans. Like, they almost always like lead the league in attendance. So I don't know. It's just so sad to me because I want guys like Caruso to go be successful, right? I want Patrick Williams to get some shots at some point. He's out for the year now, so that's a whole nother thing. But like, you're going to lose guys like Andre Drummond for nothing. Like, you could have gotten like something for Andre Drummond. He was a minimum contract guy that's extremely effective. Like, I don't understand. The team is just weird. They have too many point guards on it. There's like no wings. Like, it's been nice to see like Dalen Terry getting some more minutes and stuff like that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just... It's so stupid. I can't be a Bulls fan at this point. I will be, but like, what do you do with this team? It's just a complete disaster. All right, so those are our trade deadline regrets. Not anything too crazy. Let's talk about this now. Young players who might need a trade this offseason. And this is coming right off of the rumor that Jalen Green, or I guess the news that Houston offered Jalen Green to Brooklyn for McCall Bridges and like some picks or something like that. And a lot of mixed reactions, honestly, in the comments about that one. I was of the belief that I wouldn't trade McCall Bridges for Jalen Green, but a lot of Rockets fans were like, no, like, we want Jalen Green and everything. I'm like, okay, I get he's playing well right now. Don't get absorbed in it. Mikal Bridges is a way better player. I'd much rather have Mikal Bridges. I'm not sure I want to give up all those picks for Mikal Bridges, but like I understand. I understand both sides of the arguments, but I think Mikal Bridges is way more valuable at the end of the day. I'd like don't get enamored with Jalen Green's dunks and everything that much, and maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I guess we could talk about moving him somewhere else in this article. So yeah, the first one, Jalen Green. Let's just keep the conversation going, right? Like, I don't know if a change of scenery is necessarily going to help him because, like, the Houston Rockets' whole thing this last season was, hey, let's bring in guys like Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, like dudes like Şengün are here. Like, you brought in a lot of vets to try and improve these young dudes that have had no support up to this point. The Jabari Smiths, right, that are on the team as well, and guys like Jae'Sean Tate or whatever. But what would moving him look like, right? Like, where would you move him to where you think it would be an improvement? Because it's not like he's not getting his shots or anything in Houston. It's not like he's not getting the PT. So, like, what opportunity is he looking for other than, like, better guidance and coaching, which I feel like he gets pretty good coaching in Houston for the most part. I don't think that they're playing a weird system of basketball at all. So I don't understand what moving him would really accomplish. I feel like it'd be better to just have him continue to develop here in Houston along these other guys and hope that the momentum that he's building on right now at the end of the season like maybe continues. I don't know. I just think that'd probably be better for his development because like you've got some decent leaders on the team right now, and I don't know. I'd rather see that. Next one, Moses Moody of the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, what pick was Moses Moody? He was like the 14th pick or something like that back in the day. Do we have that? Yeah, Moses Moody was the 14th pick. Okay, I knew they had like 2 lottery picks that year. I just couldn't remember exactly which one it is. So Moses Moody just hasn't gotten a ton of burn. Like him and Kuminga were in similar situations where they went onto this Warriors team that was still trying to contend and everything, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to give a ton of minutes to these young guys like right away, but the minutes just haven't quite come. Kuminga's obviously getting more of those now, but like, you know, you took Moody with the 14th pick, and we've seen some things out of him at points, like some defensive prowess, like he's been able to shoot at points, he's had some decent ball handling moments as well, but he hasn't quite cracked a rotation on a team that's not exactly deep. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, unfortunately for Moody, even with Klay Thompson slipping and Andrew Wiggins continuing to prove that his elite play was an outlier, like, he still can't get on the court over some of these other guys. And, like, I don't think it's like a hustle thing or like an attitude thing. Obviously, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know, and I don't know anybody on the Warriors right now, but, like, he sure seems to work pretty hard when he's out there. Like, honestly, that seems pretty evident. So, like, why aren't we trying to develop this guy? Like, I understand there's guys like Pods and Gary Payton and stuff like that, but you're telling me Moses Moody can't get some burn out there, and I just don't know. I don't know what Steve Kerr maybe doesn't like about him and like Kuminga. Maybe he just doesn't trust the younger dudes, but he's got Pods out there, so I don't know. It's weird, and yeah, I would like to see Moses Moody on a new team. Now, what team would that be? I don't exactly know. I have a hard time picturing where a lot of these like 2/3s can go, because really they could fit almost anywhere. But a place where he can maybe be a secondary ball handler and a guy that can just come in, play a little bit of defense, shoot some threes, stuff like that. Maybe like Utah could use him right now. They've got kind of a deficiency at the wing right now. So maybe a place like that, right? They've got a little bit of capital that they can move over for a guy like him too. But yeah, let's get Moses Moody somewhere else. Ooh, Marcus Sasser. That's a name I haven't thought about in a minute, and maybe that's a sign that, yeah, he should be moved. So Sasser was a late first-round pick last year by Detroit, playing the point guard spot. And what's weird is that, like, he's a really good shooter. And for a young point guard that can shoot, you would think that they would have, like, cracked the rotation right now, and teams would be like, oh, yeah, let's keep developing this. Let's keep rolling with this. But here's where things obviously get a little bit jumbled. The Pistons have like the weirdest roster right now. They've got so many like interesting young players on the team. They don't quite fit together. The rotations that coach has been throwing out there this year have been so weird. Like, and again, I'll say this, like, I think the Pistons coach, his name is escaping me right now. What's his name? I didn't even need to look it up. It's Monty Williams. But I think Monty Williams is a really good coach. So I just feel like somebody else is influencing these rotations. It just doesn't make sense that he wouldn't put some of these guys on the court together. But yeah, they've got all these players that they're kind of trying to develop at once. And, you know, obviously they're not winning games. So you'd be like, why can't Sasser get more minutes? But like, We've got guys like Asar and Cunningham and Ivy that want the ball, and I don't know. It's such a jumbled mess right now. So you would think then, okay, let's take Sasser, put him on a new team where they're a little bit more committed to his development and everything. Maybe the Spurs, huh? Maybe the Spurs don't need to draft a point guard then in the first round. Maybe they can just go get Sasser. I'm not saying he'd be the starter or anything. He'd still go with Trey Jones, but he would get time to develop with a team like that. And really, any team would be interested in a young point guard like this that could shoot, right? That's what it is at the end of the day. So yeah, if I'm another team, I'm making a call for Marcus Sasser before like he burns out and falls out of the league or something, or doesn't get his touches anymore and loses his confidence. So I'd definitely make a call if I was another team. But who do we got? Ooh, Zaire Williams. Yeah, this is another interesting one. Obviously, Zaire Williams was a lottery pick by Memphis, and in his first year in the NBA was looking pretty promising, I remember. He was, I want to say it was like after the All-Star break, he kind of found some momentum, and he was like shooting pretty well. He was getting you 9-10 points a game, being a good athlete, being a nice defender. He's a big, long dude at like 6'8". And then, like, injuries kind of took over his second season, and now he just kind of hasn't been able to find a role again. And yeah, the Grizzlies have been a weird team, obviously, so it's kind of hard to evaluate. But for whatever reason, he's lost all that momentum that he had early on in his career. And so now you look at this Grizzlies team, right, who's been able to have the opportunity to throw a lot of new pieces in or on the court to kind of see how they work, right? And you discovered that Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson are solid NBA players that you could probably throw in your rotation next year. Obviously, similar position to Zaire, right? And so now you say, okay, where does he belong in all of this? And the answer might just be that he might not, especially considering I at least think that the Grizzlies are going to target a wing in this draft. They might have 2 picks early on, and so maybe they target a big as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go after a wing. I think Cody Williams makes a ton of sense to end up on this team, and I'm not saying he's going to start necessarily right away, but maybe they address the starting wing in free agency or something. But I don't know. He might be the odd man out, and maybe that's another move that they could make to try and secure like a new starting wing. But giving him a new opportunity probably makes some sense, because I think they're probably more interested in developing Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson at this point, because they're just showing that they're capable of doing it right now. So I don't know exactly where you send him, but depending on which teams are starting to tear down their rosters next year, throw him on the court, man. Let's see what happens with him, because he's a very talented player. And who are we finishing out with? AJ Griffin, another guy that slips my mind all the time, even though during our Atlanta Hawks series, we talk about him a decent amount. But yeah, AJ Griffin, lottery pick, not a lottery pick. He was a first-round pick last season. Was a pretty solid rookie out of Duke. Like, a lot of people question like his shooting form and everything. I remember that being the thing, and I never thought it was like that weird, honestly, but you know, is what it is. But he shot like 40% from 3 as a rookie, and even hit like a couple game winners and stuff. But now that's in the past. Since Quinn Snyder's taken over, he's made it pretty clear that AJ Griffin is not someone that he really wants to have like in the rotation. I know he's been moved down to the G League a bunch this year. He's had some ankle injuries, and I think he was away for personal reasons at one point in December, so hope everything's okay there. But yeah, clearly he's not a part of the plans. He's a 6'6" wing that's got some athleticism, obviously has some shooting touch, plays solid defense because he's got a pretty wide wingspan, but you know, guys like Jalen Johnson and DeAndre Hunter are more so prominent pieces to this team right now. And my guess is that they'll probably look to try and move him as they try to completely retool this roster this year, because somebody will probably be interested in him. He's an interesting enough prospect, and people will latch onto that shooting stroke that he had his rookie season. So, I mean, if he's healthy, I could totally see him floating onto another team. Maybe a team like the Magic or something like that could use him as like a reserve 3-and-D wing, where his focus is a little bit more on the defensive end. So I don't know. I think that could be cool. He should go somewhere with an established culture already, though, and that's why the Magic came into mind. But yeah, no, let's get AJ Griffin somewhere else. So 4 out of the 5 of these, I think we agreed with need a change of scenery, except for Jalen Green, which hopefully they just figure it out in Houston. Yeah, y'all let me know what you think. What are some regrets that you have from this trade deadline, and also some guys that you want to see moved? But let's try and enjoy the rest of the NBA season. Playoffs are almost here, and I can't wait to cover it with y'all. But make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. So really appreciate it as always. We'll talk to y'all later.